have lots of injuries to discuss up next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Thursday, April 25th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White, and let's talk about those injuries. Blake Snell was placed on the IL with a moderate left adductor strain. Manager Bob Melvin said Snell could miss beyond the minimum 15 days, and it's just been a disastrous start to 2024 for Blake Snell. Cody Bellinger also placed on the IL with right rib fractures, and the Cubs recalled top prospect Pete Crow-Armstrong, who in the minors this season was hitting .203 with 2 homers, 5 steals, and a .633 OPS. Scott, anything to see here with Pete Crow-Armstrong in the time that Bellinger is out?
Well, I mean, he's a highly regarded prospect, and I imagine Bellinger's absence is going to be several weeks. So there's a chance, certainly, that Crow-Armstrong puts something together and emerges as a usable fantasy option. However, there are some concerning underlying issues here that actually had me ranking him lower than the consensus among prospects. Great defensive player. Obviously doesn't matter for our purposes. His production was good in the minors last year, but terrible plate discipline and pretty bad exit velocities too. And there's just a pitch selection issue, like we've seen for Ceddanne Rafaela of the Red Sox, who also had good numbers in the minors. Crow-Armstrong, when he got called up last year, he went 0 for 14 with 7 strikeouts for the Cubs. And they remember that. Obviously, his work at AAA, this year wouldn't suggest that he's turned the corner or anything. He hasn't been promised any kind of playing time that I've seen. So I think it's a wait-and-see situation for fantasy, even though there is, at least in theory, some power speed upside here.
Lane Thomas was placed on the IL with a grade 2 MCL sprain and is without a timetable for a return. The Nationals recalled Trey Lipscomb. No James Wood just yet. Brayan Bello was placed in the IL with right lat tightness. The team is optimistic he'll be ready to return after the minimum 15 days. And not an injury, but a pretty big demotion. Jordan Walker was optioned back to AAA. He was hitting just .155 this season with 0 homers and 0 steals in 20 games. Scott, how are you handling Jordan Walker? Is he someone that you absolutely need to hold on to in fantasy?
No, I don't think so. Obviously, the deeper the league, the more justifiable it is. If it's a 5 outfielder league, the more justifiable it is. But he has some legitimate things to work out to work on. This wasn't him just being forced out by a roster surplus. So, for example, Oliver Marmol, the Cardinals manager, said he's got to be feeling good about where he's at swing-wise and pitch selection-wise in order to get back up here to help us. And the pitch selection, it really does seem like was an issue here for Jordan Walker. He was getting burned down and away to the point it was affecting his swing posture, is how the Cardinals official website put it. So it was actually causing him mechanical issues, his inability to lay off that pitch the pitchers were just hammering him with. And that would explain why the numbers are so bad, even though when he makes contact, it's high quality. There's still a lot to like here for Jordan Walker, obviously. But he's just not all the way there yet and could use the more, and could, unlike last year when he got sent down early and we're like, what are the Cardinals doing? They're crazy. I think it's a little more defensible this time, especially since they have more hitters than they can fit in the lineup right now.
Let's wrap up talking about Garrett Crochet, who the first couple of weeks of the season looked like the breakout pitcher in fantasy baseball. He has now allowed 5+ earned runs in 3 straight starts. He was at the Twins. It was 4 innings, 5 runs allowed, 6 strikeouts, only 8 swinging strikes on 87 pitches. All of a sudden, the ERA is up to 6.37. Scott, what are you doing with Garrett Crochet?
Well, I don't think there's anything you can do but hold. Trading him, obviously, it's a bad time to do that. And I don't think dropping him is a wise move either, if for no other reason than because he entered this start, even with the 2 bad starts prior, he entered this start with the 3rd best K per 9 among major league starters and the 5th best expected ERA. So a huge gap between his actual ERA and expected ERA that's only grown with this start, which would itself tell you that the skill indicators for Garrett Crochet much, much better than the actual performance. Basically everything but the ERA still looks great. for Garrett Crochet. And so, the fact it's 3 bad starts in a row, I'm not ruling out the possibility that the league's just caught up to him and maybe it'll all fall apart from here. But the upside he showed in his first 3 starts was so ridiculously high that it's going to take more than just a bad 3-start stretch. I mean, anybody can have a bad 3-start stretch. The fact it's early amplifies it, obviously, but I think the upside is too intriguing here to pull the plug now.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Odyssey app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.